Welcome to today's Tea Time audio story. It's time to slow down, take a deep breath, and enjoy a moment just for you. As you sip your favorite tea, let your mind drift into the world of stories, where imagination comes alive and anything is possible. Listening to audio stories isn't just entertaining, it's also a wonderful way to relax, spark creativity, and improve your English in a natural and enjoyable way. Stories have the power to transport us to far-off places, introduce us to new characters, and remind us of life's little lessons. So whether you're here to unwind, learn something new, or simply enjoy a quiet escape, this is your time. Get comfortable, let your worries melt away, and allow today's story to take you on a journey. Let the magic begin. Ethan's days had become a relentless blur of responsibilities and anxiety. Every morning, he woke with a weight in his chest, a heaviness born from endless hospital visits, urgent phone calls, and the unyielding pressure of preparing for what felt like an inevitable storm. His grandmother's declining health loomed over him like a dark cloud, and every passing day made him question whether he could bear it all. Sleep was scarce, exhaustion seeped into every corner of his mind and body, leaving him as if he were constantly caught between waking and a restless dream. Through it all, Sophia remained his quiet beacon of hope. She had watched him fade away slowly, from the vibrant, determined boy who once laughed easily in the school halls to someone whose eyes now betrayed a deep, unspoken sorrow. Every time she saw him, whether walking alone under gray skies or slumped in the corner of a bustling classroom, her heart ached for him. She knew he was trying to be strong, to shoulder the weight of the world on his own, but she also understood that no one was meant to bear such burdens alone. It was during one of these long, draining days that Sophia made a decision. She could no longer watch Ethan suffer in silence. The moment had come to step in, not just as a friend, but as someone who would share his load, no matter how heavy it became. Late one autumn afternoon, as golden leaves danced outside the classroom window, Sophia sat quietly in the library. Her eyes darted between her textbooks and a mental picture of Ethan's tired expression. Every time he passed by the window on his way to class, he seemed to carry an invisible weight that no one else could see. The constant barrage of hospital visits, the stress of upcoming responsibilities, it was all too much for him, and she couldn't simply stand by while he slowly unraveled. "I can't let him do this alone," she whispered to herself. "I have to help him, even if he doesn't ask for it." With that thought fueling her resolve, she packed her books and notes and headed toward Ethan's house after school. The drive felt interminable as she rehearsed what she might say, imagining ways to break through the walls he'd built around his heart. When she finally arrived, the door creaked open and Ethan appeared. His eyes, usually a warm, reassuring brown, were dull and tired, and his hair was a tangled mess from the stress of it all. His black-rimmed glasses seemed heavy on his face, as if even they could not lift the gloom that shrouded him. "Soph," he said, his voice rough and uncertain. "I came to help," she said, holding up a notebook and a pile of textbooks. Her tone was firm yet gentle, full of genuine care. "I know things have been hard, and I want to be here for you." Ethan hesitated, clearly caught off guard by her presence. "Sophia, you really don't have to. I know you can handle your own problems," she interrupted softly. "But you're not alone in this, Ethan. Let me help you. Please." After a long moment, his shoulders slumped in reluctant acceptance. "Okay," he murmured, stepping aside and allowing her in. They settled at the old dining table in Ethan's room, a space filled with scattered textbooks, scribbled notes, and remnants of a life that once seemed simpler. The room was dim, lit only by a single desk lamp that cast soft shadows across their study materials. Despite the chaos of his daily life, Sophia was determined to bring order to this small corner of the world. For hours, they pored over textbooks together. Sophia patiently broke down complex equations and explained the intricacies of literature passages, guiding Ethan through the labyrinth of academic challenges. Every time he faltered or his eyes drifted away, she would lean in close, her hand resting gently on his shoulder as if to remind him that she was there, every step of the way. "You're not alone, Ethan," she'd say whenever he began to murmur excuses or express his frustration. "We'll take it one problem at a time. I believe in you." Ethan's initial resistance slowly began to crumble. At first, he clutched his textbooks as if they were lifelines, but under Sophia's unwavering support, he began to trust that maybe, just maybe, he could face the storm. There were moments during their sessions when he would close his eyes and listen to the soft cadence of her voice explaining a particularly challenging concept, and for those few minutes, the weight on his chest would feel a little lighter. But it wasn't only about classwork. In between the lessons, their conversations grew more personal. Late at night, when the world outside was silent and the only sound was the ticking of the clock, Ethan would share fragments of his fear, his guilt for not being there for his little brother, his terror of losing his grandmother, and his overwhelming feeling of inadequacy in the face of such relentless pressure. Sophia listened. She listened with her whole heart, her eyes never leaving his, conveying a silent promise that he could trust her with every tear, every whispered secret. And in those moments, their bond deepened. No longer was she merely his study partner, she had become his refuge, his safe harbor in the storm of his life. One chilly evening, as rain pattered softly against the window and the lamp flickered with a warm glow, Ethan's frustration finally boiled over. The textbooks and notes lay scattered before him like a chaotic puzzle he couldn't solve. With a heavy sigh, he slammed his book shut, a sound that echoed through the quiet room. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered, his voice breaking as he buried his face in his hands. The pressure was too much, the fear of failure, the weight of his responsibilities, the constant dread that he might let down everyone who depended on him. Sophia rushed to his side, wrapping her arms around him. "Ethan, please," she said softly, her voice steady despite the emotion swirling in her eyes. "You're not failing. You're doing the best you can. I know it feels like too much, but you're stronger than you realize." He trembled in her embrace, the dam of his emotions finally breaking. "I'm scared, Sophia," he admitted, his voice raw with vulnerability. "I'm so scared of losing everything. Of not being enough." Her hand, gentle yet determined, wiped away the tears that glistened on his cheeks. "You don't have to be perfect, Ethan. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to lean on someone when you're hurting. I'm here, always. We'll face this, one step at a time." In that quiet moment, with the soft hum of the rain in the background, Ethan felt something shift within him, a small, hopeful spark that told him he wasn't alone. The words, simple and sincere, reverberated in his heart long after the tears had dried. Over the next several weeks, the study sessions became a ritual, a lifeline that tethered Ethan to hope. Every afternoon, after the day's responsibilities had worn him thin, he would settle at his desk with Sophia by his side. The routine was comforting in its predictability, a review of notes, a discussion of assignments, and moments of shared silence where no words were needed. Sophia would prepare small treats, a cup of tea, a piece of fruit, a few words of encouragement on a sticky note, each gesture a reminder that she was there for him, through every challenge. And slowly, as the long hours passed, the fortress of isolation that Ethan had built around himself began to show cracks. In those vulnerable moments, He would glance at her, his eyes softening with gratitude and something more tender that he wasn't ready to name yet. There were times when the pressure would overwhelm him, the thought of his grandmother's fragile condition, the endless cycle of responsibilities, and he would retreat into silence. But even in those moments, Sophia's quiet presence reminded him that he could share his burden. A gentle squeeze of her hand, a reassuring smile, or a simple nod from her was enough to keep him tethered to reality. One particularly long night, as they pored over a dense chapter of physics that seemed determined to confound him, Ethan's frustration boiled over. He pushed his notes aside, his eyes darting around the cluttered room. "I'm so tired, Sophia," he admitted, voice heavy with defeat. "I feel like everything is falling apart. I'm afraid I'll never be able to fix it all." Sophia paused, setting her pen down. "You're not broken, Ethan. I know you feel like you're drowning, but you have a strength inside you that even you haven't seen yet. Let me help you see it." She leaned in closer, her tone both gentle and firm. "Let's take a break. Just for a few minutes. Look outside, breathe in the cool air, and then we'll come back and tackle this together." They stepped out onto the quiet, rain-washed street, the cool air a balm to the suffocating tension inside him. As the droplets glistened under the streetlights, Ethan allowed himself a brief moment of respite, a moment where the weight of his burdens was shared, if only for a fleeting instant. "Thank you," he murmured, more to himself than to her, as he looked up at the vast, starlit sky. In that moment, the endless stress of assignments and hospital visits felt a little more bearable, cushioned by the warmth of Sophia's unwavering presence. As days turned into weeks, the once overwhelming chaos of Ethan's life began to take on a new rhythm, one where he didn't have to face everything alone. Sophia became his constant companion, a steady source of hope and strength. Her dedication to helping him with classwork and exam preparation was more than academic assistance, it was an act of love, a testament to her belief in him. They transformed their study sessions into an oasis of support. Together, they would review lessons, solve complex problems, and even take breaks to simply talk about everything from favorite memories to the dreams they still held for the future. Through these shared moments, Ethan slowly began to see that even in the darkest times, there were sparks of light. Sophia's encouraging words, "You can do this, and I'm here, always," echoed in his mind long after the study session ended. Her presence turned the intimidating silence of his empty room into a space of possibility, a place where even the hardest equations could be solved and every fear could be faced. One chilly evening, while the wind howled outside and the sound of rain provided a steady background, Ethan and Sophia found themselves working through a particularly challenging assignment on calculus. The pages of the textbook were filled with formulas and graphs that seemed to dance before his eyes, but Sophia was patient. "Let's break it down," she suggested, gently taking the pen from his trembling hand. Together, they went through each step, her calm explanations and subtle reassurances turning the overwhelming chaos into manageable, bite-sized pieces. With each problem solved, Ethan felt a small part of his confidence return, a reminder that, with Sophia's help, he could navigate even the most daunting challenges. After they finished the assignment, Ethan looked at her, his expression softening. "I don't know how you do it, Soph," he said quietly. "How you make everything seem possible." Sophia smiled, a warmth lighting her eyes. "Because I believe in you, Ethan. And I know that no matter how dark things get, there's always a way through, especially when we face them together." Her words were a balm to his weary soul, a gentle reminder that the bond they shared was a source of strength that could outlast even the heaviest burdens. In the quiet hours before dawn, after another long day of juggling responsibilities, Ethan would sometimes find himself alone with his thoughts. In those moments, he would remember all the small gestures of care, from Sophia's gentle squeeze of his hand during a study break to the way she stayed by his side even when he tried to retreat into silence. One night, as the world outside slept under a blanket of soft darkness, Ethan sat by his window, staring at the distant city lights. His mind was filled with worries and what-ifs, but amid the chaos, one thought stood clear: he wasn't alone. He pulled out his phone and found a message from Sophia. "No matter how heavy the world feels, I'm here. We'll get through this together." Those words resonated deeply, echoing in the quiet room and reminding him that there was hope, even when everything else seemed to crumble. He whispered to himself, "I'm not alone. I have Sophia." And in that moment, as the first rays of dawn began to break through, Ethan made a silent promise to himself, to lean on her when he needed to allow her in, and to trust that together they could face whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. As the days continued, the storm that had threatened to engulf Ethan slowly began to subside. The long nights of studying and the heavy days filled with hospital visits started to blend into a rhythm, one punctuated by moments of shared laughter, quiet understanding, and the unwavering support of a friend who was slowly becoming much more than that. Sophia continued to be his anchor, gently guiding him through the academic challenges that still loomed and offering a steady presence that made every obstacle seem a little less insurmountable. And with each passing day, Ethan learned to accept that vulnerability was not a sign of weakness, but a testament to the strength of their bond. In the final hours of each study session, as they packed up their notes and said their goodbyes, there was an unspoken promise in their eyes, a promise that they would continue to face the darkness together, hand in hand, heart with heart. And so, in the midst of chaos and uncertainty, a light began to shine through, a light fueled by shared hope, quiet resilience, and a love that grew stronger with every challenge they overcame. This chapter is a testament to the power of support and shared struggle, a reminder that even when the world seems overwhelming, there is strength in vulnerability and hope in togetherness. Thank you for joining today's Tea Time story. We hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of imagination and storytelling. Whether it made you smile, sparked a new thought, or simply gave you a moment to relax, we're grateful to have shared this time with you. Thank you for listening and being part of our story time. Keep dreaming, keep imagining, and we'll see you again for another magical tale soon. Until next time, take care and happy listening.